Okay, so we're back with another deck profile. This one is for Darkness Dragon World. This is for Death Rulers, and the buddy for this particular deck is Death Ruler Gallus. So those of you who are not familiar with this card, core cost of 1. Your stats are 2000, 2 crit, 1000 defense. So not the strongest card, but it's his ability that makes him exceptionally aggressive. He has the Shadow Dive effect, so this card can attack the opponent even if there's a card in the monster's centre. Basic kind of like dives underneath him, dealing the crit. But this also can gain 1 life. So if he attacks the monster, does 2 damage for example, you gain a life. So it's not only good at aggressive attacks, but it's also good at kind of topping up your life. So let's get started. Now this is an unusual deck profile. This won't suit everybody, I will be honest, but it does work for me for this particular kind of world slash sub-clan. Now the first one we're going to go to is basically grade zeros. Now my first grade 0 is Death Ruler Gaspentis, I think is how you pronounce it. 2000 crit, sorry, 2000 attack, 1 crit, 3000 defense. Not the greatest, but it's allowing another card on the field to offer a little bit more pressure to the flag. So we run 4 of him. Now going on to grade 1s. Now my grade 1 lineup is 3 Death Ruler Evariel, which is this guy. Another unusual, he has Death Dive. When this card is destroyed, deal 1 damage to your opponents. Not the greatest stats, but 1000 attack, 2 crit, 1000, more of a follow-up card. Or if you're willing to sacrifice something, dealing damage on your opponent's turn. Also, if you're playing it on the side as a follow-up card, they don't usually go for it because of that cost to them to do so. Or even bearing in mind, if it's your opponent's stat, they're on 1 life, you put this in the centre, they're going to have to attack it or just pass turn. So it's an unusual little card. It makes your opponent sometimes slow down, wonder, is the risk worth attacking it, or is it worth going over another card? That 2 crit follow up of another monster. It's quite nice. The next one we run is, well, let's do the buddy, Death Ruler Gallus. Obviously we've covered him already. We run 4 of them being the buddy for this deck. So enough said, moving on again. Another one we run 4 of is Death Ruler Death Cousin, which is this guy. Love the artwork on this. There's something about this that just looks like it belongs on an LP cover. Absolutely gorgeous. Got 2 of the foiled ones. Would like to get this all in foiled just because of the artwork. Has the move effect, so if you just need to cover your centre, it's a great little card to do it. 4000, 1 crit, 3000 defence. Not the greatest grade 1, but it does allow you just to cover your centre, which is quite nice. Run 4 of him. Next one is Death Ruler Galgahati. Sorry, some of these names are exceptionally hard to pronounce, so I'm hoping I'm doing a good job of this. Unusual ability on this guy. When an attack of a card on your field is nullified, put a card from your opponent's gauge into a drop zone. So basically it's quite a good card if someone, say you're playing Dragon World, they're using Green Dragon Shield, nullify your attack, you then target their gauge and cripple the gauge for doing so. Which means, say if they're hovering around 3-4 gauge, you're trying to stop them maybe using an impact. 3-2-1, not the greatest crit on the world, but it's more of a follow-up card again. So literally you either link attack or just go after the 2 crit on the flag. So that's the grade 1 lineup. Let's move on to the grade 2. Now the grade 2 is a bit more aggressive. This is probably where most of the aggression is in the deck. So the next one is obviously another Death Ruler. This is Skull, Death Ruler Skull. 7000 attack, 2 crit, 4000 defense. Play 2 of this guy. Brilliant for just offering pressure to the centre, clearing it out, and going after the flag. Next one is Death Ruler Execute. Brilliant little card, not going to lie. 6000 attack, 3 crit, 2000 defense, and no core cost. Quite a heavy amount of crit. Same again, good attack power, good at just going after the centre or going straight after the flag to do some damage. Next we have 3 Deathruler Gorin. This one is 3000 free crit, 4000 defense, so very good crit again. Pay 1 gauge to call him. Does have a nice little counter ability. Destroy this card if you do destroy a size 1 or less monster on your opponent's field. So for example, if they're being link attacked, you can destroy one, or if your opponent's maybe attacked you with a size 2, going to follow up with a size 1, you can destroy it before it attacks. Quite a nice little card, decent amount of crit. Not gonna lie, just love the artwork again. Brilliant, lovely piece of artwork. I was going to say, of all the decks I've built, this is probably one of the decks I do enjoy to play. It's not the most aggressive out of ones I've built, but it is definitely one of the most fun. And the artwork on it is absolutely gorgeous. So, what's next? Now, the last grade 2 I run is Mastermind. Deathruler Mastermind, probably one of my favourite grade 2s. His ability is absolutely awesome. Pay 1 gauge when this card enters the field. You get to check your drop zone for a grade 1, pay its call cost, call it back to the field. Now, running Deathruler Galos as your buddy means he is targeted like no one's business. This card allows you just to keep calling him back, so every time your opponent basically thinks he's got rid of him, surprise, he's back. And it's pretty much because of this card. I am thinking of putting a 4th one in on this dude once I find him, but he is a lovely card. For you Deathruler fans, this is a card you should be running without a shadow of a doubt. So, grade 3 time. I don't run many grade 3s because I'm not going to lie, I mostly use like 2-1-0 lineup on this. But the one I do like, because it makes me think, it's one of these decks that I do like to think about what I'm doing, is Deathruler 13. Now, Deathruler 13 is exceptionally aggressive for a couple of reasons. You pay 2 gauge to call him, he's got 13,000 attack power, he's got 2 critical, very poor defense, so only 3,000, but obviously the card needs to be kept in check. It's got a double attack as well, so this is going to clear out most cards. 3,000 attack power. There's not a lot you can can't get rid of with this guy. On the other hand, when he enters the field, you deal a damage to your opponent. Brilliant. But if you keep an eye on the cards, say if you pull this early, don't play him too early. If you keep an eye on your opponent's card and they get up to 13 cards in their drop zone, you call this, that cranks up to 5 damage, which is quite nice. So it requires you to think a little bit, which is quite nice, because some games you look at what you've got in your hand, you look at what you've got in your field, and then just play what you have. Whereas this guy does force you to maybe think, well, hang on a minute, if I don't play in this turn, maybe the next 2 turns, this will do the job quite nicely. Now, this is where this deck is probably different from 1, any other deck I've run, and 2, probably what's going to make you guys wonder, what am I doing? This deck does not have impacts and it does not have items. The aggression and probably the survival / the balance comes from the spells. So what we have first is 2 Death Scream. Love this card. Destroy a size 1 or less monster on the field, gain a life. Quite good at just clearing up the side monsters on your opponent's field, topping up your life, same as Galos. The next one is from the original Darkness Dragon World starter deck, and that is Death Damage. This is great. I run 4 of this because this is what adds the aggression to my deck. Clear out the centre, follow up with the 2s, the 3s, the odd 1, getting those 3 attacks off per turn because I've cleared it out with this one, or using the Shadow Dive effect from Galos and some of the others to then go after the flag. Love that card, does help rebalance the aggression. Next we run 4 Midnight Shadows. For those of you who don't know, this is basically just nullify an attack from on your opponent's turn. So you mainly cast this card during your attack on your opponent's turn. If it is not a link attack, nullify it. Now, I will be honest, a lot of people go after Galos because he can bypass the centre. This stops him basically dying, or forces him to have 2 runs at him before attacking your centre or yourself. So I run 4 of them for that reason. Next is this guy. This also adds to a bit of the pressure. I do want to get another one of these, I'm not going to lie. So double R, it's Judgment Day, pay 1 gauge, and for this turn all your Death Ruler monsters gain a crit. So like ones with double attack, maybe in Death Ruler 13 himself, a couple of size zeros, that's going to be 3, 2, 2, so if you've got 2 zeros and 13 out, that is literally, well, let's have that 3, 2, 2, 7 attack per turn, and then follow up for another 3, so that's potentially 10 crit per turn. So that is a gorgeous card for you Death Ruler fans out there if you haven't used it. Next one is Abyss Symphony. Run 2 of these just to give me options once my life gets to about 6. If I'm running low on cards, this allows me to draw 2 for a cost of 1 gauge. Enough said, just allows options. So like I said, I do run a lot of spells in this one. The next one is Death Counter. So this is very similar to Dragonic Energy to some degree. You mainly cast this during your opponent's attack and must use on a death monster. Counter, choose a death monster on the field, give it plus 4,000 defense and counter attack. Now Death Rulers do have good attack powers, but their defense is shocking. Obviously there has to be a balance because of their skills like Shadow Dive and Aggression. This helps basically turn the tide back in your favour. Next one I run is Bloody Dance. Choose a deep monster on the field and give it 3,000 attack and defense and counter attack. Now a lot of the monsters I run are death, but they have a subclass of deep, which this allows to run quite nicely. It then also allows me to attack them on their turn. So sometimes I might go after Galos with a weaker monster because he's only 1,000 defense, or they might go after Death Ruler 13 with a slightly weak one, saving the crit for a follow through because he is only 3,000 defense. Like I said, Death Rulers are quite poor on defense. This then allows me to crank it up, clear one out, force them to have another go at him, slows up the attack from my opponent quite nicely. Now last but not least is 2 Black Dragon Shields. I don't run too many of these because, like I said, a lot of the aggressions is from the spells, but this I just keep 1 or 2 in the deck, so there's always roughly 1 in my hand because I like to save them. So if they do get through my centre, I can shut them down, gain a life, top my life up. So like I said, there isn't a lot of weapons, but between the spells, my buddy, and the additional monsters, there is a lot of balance, and it comes from the counter attacks, gaining extra life through different ways, which allows you to think about what you're doing. Hope you've enjoyed this deck profile. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and hope to see you again soon for another deck profile. Take care.